Hi, this is Dr. Bill Payne, the pastor of First Methodist Church in Live Oak, Florida. Most of us have heard of George Foreman, the world heavyweight boxing champion, and he's been an inspiration to many of us. George was born into poverty. He was a kind of a gangster on the road when he was a child, and finally he found liberation in boxing, and that boxing took him all the way to the world championship. And then he, in an amazing fight in 1977, in Puerto Rico, he lost the title. He didn't get knocked out, but he did lose the title to Jim Young. And afterwards, he was devastated. And so he says that he went back to the locker room and the darkness and the devastation overwhelmed him. He thought to himself, I'm George Foreman. I am the former heavyweight champion of the world. I got money, I got houses, I can retire. I've done so much in my life. I don't need anything else. I've got it all. And in that moment, something happened, and he said that he died and that he saw himself and that he had an encounter with Jesus Christ. And that encounter forever changed his life. Through that encounter, he came out not as George Foreman, the heavyweight champion of the world, but as George Foreman, a child of God, a Christian. He had a radical change in his perspective. Well, following that, he retired from boxing and he ended up trying to figure out who he was and what God wanted him to do with his life. Afterwards, a preacher asked him to give his testimony. And when he did, he realized that that is exactly what God wanted him to do. And he accepted his calling to preach, and he was ordained. And then he founded a church. His church was called the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ in Houston, Texas. And after that, he started the George Foreman Youth and Community Center. And he began to influence so many people. He understood the youth culture that he was dealing with, and he understood how to connect with those people who were just like him and how to lead them from poverty, uh, being a bad person on the roads, to having a great new life in Jesus Christ. And that was what he was doing. And in the process of doing that, he kind of ran out of money. And his wife had a dream that he needed to go back in boxing and that he'd win again. So he started to prepare for that. And he started to have the matches and he worked himself up. And then 21 years after losing his title, he won it again. He was an old man in boxing standards in his mid-40s. He won the heavyweight championship of the world as an old man. And he said, I did it not so I could do it, but so that God could work through me to pay the bills for the ministry that he gave me and the people that he called me to be with. And he said, the reason I was able to do what I did, I learned how to box without being angry. Before I channeled my anger, and the more angry I got, the better I boxed. And I realized that when I boxed with anger, he says that the devil boxed through me, and that was anger. And I don't want to be angry. Angry is not a fruit of the spirit. Anger is a manifestation of the flesh, and the devil inhabits our anger like that. And so I can't give myself in to anger when I box. And he did. And he boxed with skill, he boxed with strategy, and he was a better boxer after he gave up anger than he was when he relied on his anger to pump his adrenaline. Um, so George Foreman is this strange enigma of a guy who was at the pinnacle of his career as a world famous boxer, and he gave it all up after encountering Jesus in a deathbed experience and then becoming a minister of the gospel. In Luke chapter 5, we have the story of Jesus preaching to these masses of people, and there are too many of them for him to preach to because they're all trying to touch him, and he can't preach when everyone's crowding. So he asked Peter if he can get in his boat and to go out off the coast of the shoreline and to preach to them. So Peter pushed them out, and Peter had been out in the sea all night long with his friends, and they'd come in and they were a part of this crowd. And now Jesus is preaching from his boat afterwards, kind of to repay Peter and to show Peter that I have a calling for your life. He said to Peter, okay, Peter, go out into the deep water and cast your net. And Peter said, Jesus, we've been fishing all night long. We didn't catch a thing. There's no fish out there tonight. And he said, well, I'll do it if you tell me to. And Peter got out there and he cast his net into the water and he caught so much fish. His boat was sinking. He called his friends, Andrew and John, and they came with their boat. They filled up both boats to the rim. They were both about to go under the water. And they got the boats to the land, and Peter fell down and said to Jesus, you're too holy for me. You're too awesome. You are too great. And then Jesus said, hey, Peter, stop fishing for fish, and I will make you a fisher of men. And then it ends with this. So Peter and his companions pulled their boats up on the shore. Then they left everything and followed Jesus. So they had these boats completely full of fish, worth a year's wages anyway. And they get them up on the shore and they just abandon it all. And they go and they follow Jesus. You know, following Jesus was more exciting than cleaning those fish. Following Jesus was more exciting than going out at nighttime and fishing. Following Jesus was the most exciting thing that Peter could do, especially after he listened to him, encountered the Spirit in him, and saw the miracles that he was doing, healings and deliverances. Jesus was doing it all. And Peter was mesmerized by his encounter with Jesus. All of us have things in our lives that are important to us. And sometime in our lives, every one of us has to get to the point where we say that Jesus is the most important thing in life, that we want Jesus more than anything else. And we are willing to walk away from whatever it is that keeps us in bondage or that keeps us away from Jesus. We have to lay it down. We have to say goodbye to it. That's actually what the Greek word says. Deny yourself. It means say goodbye to certain things in your life so that you can say hello to Jesus. I'm going to follow you. And I pray, my friends, that you will say goodbye to whatever it is in your life that's keeping you from being a happy and fulfilled follower of Jesus Christ. May God bless you and may he give you his peace.